The court ruled that the president does not have authority to impose tariffs under IEEPA. We have alternatives. A 10% global tariff. The Trade Act of 1974. He now turns to the Trade Act of 1974, allowing temporary restrictions. Businesses in 12 states challenged the tariffs. The decision impacts global trade partners.
The markets were largely prepared.
The question of refunds remains unresolved.
Tsumon Oji,今日のニュースを読みます。Financial Times. Trump vows to impose 10% global tariffs after Supreme Court rules sweeping duties are illegal. By Stefania Palma and James Politi, February 20, 2026. Donald Trump has vowed to impose a 10% global tariff using an alternative law after Supreme Court ruled that his sweeping duties are illegal. In a press conference following Friday's landmark rebuke from the American top court, the president said other alternatives will now be used to replace the new ones that the court incorrectly rejected. We have alternatives. Great alternatives could be more money. We'll take in more money, he added. Trump said he would impose a 10% levy on top of our normal tariffs already being charged, using the Trade Act of 1974, which allowed the president to set import restrictions for up to 150 days. It was not immediately clear which existing duties he was referring to. Earlier on Friday, the Supreme Court ruled in a 6-3 vote that Trump exceeded his authority in using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose tariffs on dozens of countries. The decision marked the first significant defeat for Trump at the court after it handed him several wins in previous cases, including on the deportation of migrants. In its ruling, the Supreme Court said, "Our task today is to decide only whether the power to regulate importation, as granted to the president in IEEPA, embrace that power to impose tariffs. It does not." Trump on Friday lashed out at the decision, saying it was deeply disappointing and "I'm ashamed of certain members of the court." In the verdict, which covered the majority of the duties imposed by the White House, also threatens to cause significant disruption for American trading partners and companies across the world. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote the opinion for the majority. Justice Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Brett Kavanaugh dissented. The Supreme Court did not rule on whether the U.S. must refund the revenue raised from the duty. In his dissenting opinion, Kavanaugh wrote, "The court said nothing today about whether, and if so now, if so, how the government should go about returning the billions of dollars it has collected from importers." The case was brought by groups of American businesses, joined by 12 U.S. states, and argued they had been harmed by the tariff. In its ruling, the court said that in IEEPA's half-centuries of existence, no president has invoked the statute to impose any tariffs, let alone tariffs of this magnitude and scope. The Trump announced his tariff regime on Liberation Day last April, sparking weeks of turmoil in financial markets and alarming U.S. allies. Although he has since backed away from imposing some of the most severe duties, the U.S. ended 2025 with the effective tariff rate of more than 10%, the highest since the Second World War. The reacting markets are relatively muted. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq Composite climbed steadily to close higher by 0.6% and 0.8%, respectively. The dollar index hovered 0.2% lower, and the yield on the two-year Treasury was fractionally higher. Jason Bororashon, a portfolio manager at 91, said the response indicates that the outcome was largely expected, and the administration has had a while to plan their reelection. Stock markets have recovered since the Liberation Day to hit record high, but polls indicate that many Americans think the tariffs are hurting the country's economy. 以上です。